There's always this little wait to make sure we're among ourselves. A little shorter session. I feel like when you don't have a face, it makes a difference, right? If you're just looking in a screen, it makes a difference in the fluidity of a conversation. Although I liked your questions. As I said, they're great people. They're very knowledgeable in the industries, in the verticals. That should be just a step in the door, more than like with the previous session with Frederick, where we got really deep into a topic. That's your step in the door. You have a go-to in Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. It can always be helpful whenever you happen to be there without me, which would not be the case, of course, but it can be. You can always reach out for Roger and say, hey, we had that conversation with Nikki. I would like to swing by and see your space on site. And as I said, this is not a formality. The way people in Silicon Valley think and work is exactly like that. So I had, I think it was in the conversation with Michael, where we talked about the time that you have for a meeting. It's always kind of an hour, and sometimes it's even 30 minutes or 10 minutes. Maybe also related to the attention span that we learned from Senior on Tuesday morning. That's always the time that you get with whoever you want to meet. You will never ever have a meeting. And I never, so people ask me, can't we have a meeting at Plug and Play that's 2 hours, or at Apple that's 2 hours? We come here all the way, we want to meet in 2 hours. And the answer is always no, not because they don't want to take 2 hours of time, but they want to be very efficient with time. So even that we had an hour for the meeting with Roger, we're basically done after 30 minutes, which is fine because everything's been said, right? There's also this momentum where you digest and process, and then it's good to follow up and come back. But that's kind of the Silicon Valley way. You always get a meeting. You can always meet these people. I have these intros with you. I shared these intros with you. You have their email addresses. You have, 9 people in Silicon Valley are your network now, or tomorrow at the end of the tour. That's something. And not everyone has 9 emails, direct email inboxes to people in Silicon Valley to follow up with. That being said, we're pretty much at the end of this day, and I'm curious to hear from you. How did you feel about the 2 sessions today? Tomorrow there's 2 parts of this right now. One is a little feedback, give me a bit of a feeling how you're doing after today. And the second one is tomorrow when we start with Facebook. It's very good to be prepared. I would warmly recommend take today and tomorrow. So for Scott, it's a day, for you, it's a night and in the morning. To think about what are the questions I'd like to ask to a Facebook, to a very knowledge and insightful Facebook guy. Because Tom will not start giving, he will be like, all right, what are your questions? And if there is like 5 minutes of no questions, we're done with the conversation, whatever time it is. So what are the things that you like to ask Facebook? Is I can give you a structure, or we can talk about this. But first, I'd like to get a bit of a feeling of how much you liked how valuable they were, and how much you took out of the sessions. What's kind of the key thing that you took out of today? And I'm just starting with Yanis again, because he's the first one on next to me.
So I think the first session, when he was talking about his first experiences in Vienna, and for me was a little bit slow. And actually the last, I think, 10 to 5 minutes, they were incredibly fascinating. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when he was showing us his tools, and I mean, just skipping through them, I was mind blown. I wanted to know more and more, and Roger was already in the call. So that was kind of a pity, because I had a few more questions. I already sent him an invite on LinkedIn. And so the second one, don't know, since I didn't know what to expect, it was quite a fast pace. I'm currently not planning on acquiring some venture capital in the Valley. So was for me hard to relate. Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Anders?
Yeah, so much like Yanis said, I think that Frederick was quite inspiring, also starting out with telling about his journey in the Silicon Valley. And I would have wanted to see more of the tools he was using and get a better introduction to the methods he was using to like validate the fit to market, for example, or something else. And I think the meeting or session with Roger was um, interesting in a way, but it was quite um, not so relevant for me where I am right now to know about venture capital in the Silicon Bay. But I think later on it might become nice knowledge to know and yeah, great to know, hopefully.
Thank you. And Martin?
Well, maybe quite different to the other guys, because for me it was very interesting what Frederick was telling this his roller coaster story, and to see in which company he already was involved. So it's really amazing guy. And with Rogers was for me was a little bit too short because I had a lot of questions, but Zimbab was going just very fast then. And of course, the ecosystem is something what I'm very interested in because we try to build something up in the south of Austria. So of course, that's what we are focused on.
Yeah, follow up. Don't be humble with questions. Kind of come like an avalanche. They're okay with that. I hope the connection is okay. Can you hear me well? Short thumbs up.
Now again, yeah, it's a little bit. Well, I was missed a little bit now.
Okay. Yeah, I said don't be humble with questions. Come like an avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can write there an email with 50 questions, and they will go through this. Might not answer every of them or each and every of them really, really deeply, but you also felt like maybe it takes a little time to process everything she said and then come back with more questions. But we've definitely also for the next 2 meetings or the last 2 meetings, or if you decide to join another tour, keep the conversation alive. Don't feel like, hey, I've asked so many questions already, I don't want to ask more questions. That's totally okay. And if I feel like there are, you can realize from faces of other people if they go like this because they also want to ask a question, I would moderate, but that didn't happen. So
I'm not sure that I catched right. What is tomorrow? What they are doing? Plug and play.
Tomorrow is a pitch session. Every Friday, startups are pitching in front of VCs. And tomorrow is from the health vertical, a pitch session where they're going to have probably 20 or 30 startups presenting in front of a VC, group of VCs. And it's usually on site with 200 people in the room.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how they present. It's interesting to see how VCs respond. It's interesting to hear the questions that the VCs are asking, to get a bit of a feeling of how can I narrow down that funnel of this is relevant for me, this is not relevant for me. They have a good team, I trust in them, or this is just someone with an idea and I'm not going to trust in him.
So it would be a similar Zoom call like today, yes, and it's possible to be a part of it.
Yes, probably muted, but you can join and keep it running and watch it as you do whatever you do. I'm going to share the exits with you right after the session.
Yeah, I'm interested to have a look in.
Totally, totes. Okay, thank you. Frederick, you're muted.
Yes, like it's always good to hear a good story about startups and their paths, like different people. This is a guy who has been in more failures than you usually hear about in Denmark when you attend something. It's usually like, oh, I did this one thing, it didn't work, and then it worked fine the next time. Like Frederick really had a long path to the place he is now, and it can still flop, maybe, you never know. But I definitely found like the whole path very interesting, and also it explains a little bit more in depth of how companies in Silicon Valley work in some way. So I found that very valuable. And was also, of course, fun to see his tools. I have previously in my life used analytics, Google Analytics. So it was fun to see a different approach to using Google tools, the what's called the thing he used.
It's optimize.
Yes,
And
optimize. It was definitely
I'm gonna share the resources with you in the
yes,
email with the links.
great. But it was definitely an interesting call. And then of course the venture capitalist is not like the most urgent thing right now, but sure, it was something interesting to hear about.
I mean, I like this. I always feel like when you're talking to people who see young entrepreneurs on a scale like 50 a day, ignites this notion of I want to do something. I want to participate in this game of changing the world.
It's like you really want to get in on it. Like
it's so not distant. It's so reachable. You guys. I mean, I feel like it also applies for me, and I'm reinventing myself every 5 to 10 years, sometimes less, sometimes more radically. It's a process, but you're kind of, you have this like everything journey in front of you. And if you're passionate about shoelaces, I'm sure you're going to find someone who's also passionate about shoelaces, and you will come up with the best shoelaces in the world and earn a gazillion with it. Because when you're passionate with something, you probably identify the problem in the current situation, in the current state of that business, and whatever it is, we had like, I don't know, 20 possible job directions when I was 20, and now it's like, I don't know, 20 a minute. So when I meet people like Rocha, I still feel like having just a visual, just a logo is kind of a distant thing. I'm going to ask her to replace the logo with a picture of hers next time, because that at least makes it a human thing, not I'm representing Plug and Play here. So I like the conversation, I like her way of thinking. I like her specifically, so she's very supportive. That meeting for me, so my feedback to that meeting kind of was like this, okay, there is a massive difference between virtual meeting and on-site meeting. The meetings before, I felt like, there's still some emotion, it still works, but this was like, oh yeah, this is so much better when we're there in person.
I think it would be also nice if for example, for a Plug and Play, she would have shown a few pictures. So you get a bit impressions.
It was just very static, but I guess she was a little stressed with children in the background. Stefan.
Yes, it was very interesting to hear how things are going in Silicon Valley. I don't know if it's useful for doing things in Austria, but it was interesting to get some insights from Silicon Valley.
Okay. How did you like the Frederick session, the growth hacker session?
Yes, it was a great session.
Cool.
Thanks for that.
Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to hear how things are on the ground. You hear certain things, whether in school or from people, that like, this is how things are and this is how things should go. Like you might hear like, well, you can't really access a VC unless it's hard for them, they might not even talk to you unless you know them already somehow. But in other situations it's just not the case, or you have to be able to propose certain things, and it's like, oh, these are the kind of questions VCs have and the kind of things they want to hear. Whereas on the other hand, there's first guy's situation where it's like, well, we don't read business plans, so let's get back to straight to the idea and like go from there. And also that it seems like it can seem like a lot of these people or companies sort of had everything figured out from the start or whatever, but they all have an evolving journey. Even the Plug and Play, it's like they sort of arrived at what they are and after a while, and they made something of it. I guess sort of similar. I mean, that's a group, but with the individual, I guess in the first presentation, is sort of you enter your field a certain way, and then like you come out, and it's like all the links. It's like a chain where all the links are connected, but it's like the first one looks nothing like the last one, but it's
And then also it's so everything seems so clear and obvious in hindsight, but Plug and Play, so they were the first investors in PayPal, and to say to Elon Musk, they said, Amidi said, I'm not sure if I trust you. You can work here in my space, but you have to pay 1 year's rent in advance. And then he got to know them better. And the second year said, well, you don't have to pay rent, but that's 10% of share, because that's kind of, I'm letting you work for free, and that's equity. So give me equity. And then it was, I don't know, 2 billion as exits. Same with Google, the Google guys. So Logitech, PayPal and Google, they were the first companies, and so Amidi had this corporate store in Palo Alto, still has it in Palo Alto downtown on University Avenue. And somewhere behind the outlet, somewhere, I don't know, in the offices or upstairs, he gave them a desk to work because they heard about, he was in real estate before. And then friends said, hey, there's this thing about startups and we're talking about 1990 or something like that, later, mid 90s. And he said, okay, I don't know, never heard of, but yeah, maybe why not? And she said, everyone said, like, you should invest in startups, and you have this real estate, give them some space and figure out where this can go with you. Now it's crazy because all these big companies somehow touch plug and play along their journey. But then it was something that could have worked or could have not worked. And I like the idea. I like this story that he didn't trust Thiel and Musk that they would ever make money with their idea. So they had to pay 1 year in advance.
But I have a question. Actually, it's a similar concept what now have the accelerator.
Yeah, we accelerate pretty much copy the plug and play concept where they connect with organizations and organize deal flow meetings. Mm-hmm. Basically, the organizations tell them, all right, here is technology we need to acquire. Here is some insights we need to acquire. Here are talent we need to have. Mm-hmm. And then they start scouting, and it's usually 1,000 to 150. Mm-hmm. And the 150 startups they work with, they curate these deal flow sessions, mm-hmm. where it's a one-on-one conversation with the, I've just turned on the light, a one-on-one conversation with the startup and the company. All right, Facebook, because I have seen both with Tom. I have seen conversations where I felt like, oh, why does it have to end after an hour? I love the energy and I love the way this flows, and this is so insightful, and he's such a brilliant and smart guy. And then I have conversations where I felt like after 10 minutes, wow, this takes forever. And we booked for an hour and it's 10 minutes and I feel like everyone is hibernating. So it's very much in our hands. And one thing that's very easy and I'd advise you just to do is go on your Facebook wall and write the following sentence. Hey guys, I'm meeting Facebook tomorrow. What are the questions that you would ask if you'd meet a Facebook guy? Because that can be very helpful for you to get directions. And you can ask Facebook about the algorithm, how Facebook decides what you're seeing on your wall. You can ask Tom about the experiments they run, right? They also have like a director of growth. I don't know if they call it a director of growth, but every team is running experiments. And then you can roll out an experiment. There's a process. You can roll out an experiment to 600,000 users. Why? Because they have 3 billion. You can go in this direction. You can go into the direction of ethics. You can go into the direction of cross pollination to WhatsApp and Instagram. Whatever you'd like to talk about, it's good to be prepared for that question, for that session, because even though you feel like I know when I meet people, I always know what to ask. It's distant because we're not on campus. We're somewhere in Tom's home, like we've just been in Frederick's bedroom. And B, it makes a difference if you meet that person and go like, the best questions always come to my mind 5 minutes after the meeting. That shouldn't be the case. That's kind of the salesperson's dilemma, that the best sales arguments come to his or her mind in the elevator down to the car. It's like, oh, I should go back. I have so many brilliant things to suggest, but during the meeting, it's kind of same can apply. That for Facebook. And for Julius can talk forever, but you can also give a direction. So I'm safe with that part because Julius he's a teacher. he can share his experience and thoughts. And we have students here. I'm always convinced of the theory that we're all students, but two of you or two of us are definitely students. That's probably going to be a good journey as we go. But with Tom, he will not suggest what to talk about. So that's really crucial that you come up with your ideas and thoughts. And there are no bad, no stupid, no wrong questions. And don't be surprised, he will never answer a question if he doesn't have a very good feeling that he gives a good answer. So he can say, I don't have authority to answer that question. He can say, to be honest, I don't know. So also be okay with questions that you ask, but you won't go home with an answer. So I would say 10 questions each of you is a good number. And then we have a good, sometimes it goes, right? With an answer to one question, you have a follow-up question, then this goes in this direction. It's very serendipitous. But I don't know if there's any question you have for me that I can answer and help you prepare for this, but that would be the meeting where I would really suggest being prepared. Let me know. How do you think about the Facebook call? Is it a good idea? Post it on your Facebook wall. What would you ask a Facebook guy? You're unmuted. Yeah. If you want to say something, you have to unmute yourself. I'm not forcing this to keep that meeting.
What position did the Facebook guy have?
So
what was it? Yeah.
He ran the science team, the data science team at Facebook, but he's not doing this anymore. So I don't know what you change your positions. So I don't know what he's doing right now, but he was running the data science team.
Okay, great. Just to have some context of what he's doing.
Yeah, but he's been with Facebook for, I don't know, 13 years or so. Forever, for like forever. He belongs to the furniture.
He is Facebook.
I think after the growth hacking bit from today, I would be interested in how many different versions of Facebook they are running at the same time. So because they have a huge number of people they can test new adoptions with, and so.
Yeah. Good. Anything more to add from you guys? Otherwise, it's 8 p.m. in Europe, and what is it, 10, then 11 a.m. in Vancouver, right?
It's getting started.
Guys, I need to drop out.
Yes.
See you tomorrow. Really excited. Thank you so much, Nikki.
Enjoy your evenings.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being around, and I'll be on again tomorrow 30 minutes before the session begins if you want to kind of just chat around. Okay? Have a great evening, guys, or day.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Bye. See you tomorrow.